Hello and welcome back to the Hazzabhajan YouTube channel. It is Harry here, and today it is time for another installment in my ongoing series in which I take a look at various clubs and their record signings that they have made since 1992 and rank them from worst to best. If you want to check out any of the other episodes I've done in this series thus far, there will be a playlist link in the description or indeed on the end card of this video for you to check all of them out. But this installment, since they're 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League table as of the time of this recording, with a game in hand no less, I thought it made sense to take a look at Arsenal's club record signings that they've made since 1992. And since there have only been 8 of them in the last 31 years, I thought, yeah, let's do them next. Like all the other episodes in this series, I'm ranking them based on how good of a signing they were for the club rather than how good they were or are as players. So if you disagree with me on the basis of how good of a signing, or indeed how bad of a signing, you think the players in question were. And if you're going to enjoy this video, of course, please don't forget, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. But without any further ado, here is my best attempt to rank the 8 club record signings that Arsenal have made since 1992 from worst to best. 8th, Nicolas Pepé. The man who is currently Arsenal's record signing is also the one who I think is the worst to have held that distinction, probably of all time, by some distance. A pacey right winger with a deadly left foot and a decent set piece taker, Nicolas Pepé first came to prominence at Lille, where he scored 13 goals to help Les Dogs avoid the drop from Ligue 1 in 2017-18. The following year, however, he was the star man as they mounted a stunning charge to finish as best of the rest behind PSG, as he bagged 22 goals, putting him only behind Kylian Mbappe in the league's scoring charts, and notched 11 assists. Europe's elite clubs immediately came calling, and it would be Arsenal to get the Ivorian through the door for £72 million. Unfortunately, Pepé has struggled to adapt to the Premier League, often coming across as very one-dimensional and without another mode of attacking other than cutting inside onto his favoured left foot. This has led to him becoming extremely inconsistent, easy to defend against, and seemingly unable to string a few consecutively good performances together, which for £72 million doesn't exactly represent value for money. He did have a decent 2020-21 season in fairness with 16 goals, but he fell out of favour upon the emergence of Bukayo Saka on the right flank, only making 5 Premier League starts last season and none at all after October. Eventually, Arsenal decided to cut their losses and loaned him out to Nice at the start of this season, where he's done okay with 8 goals in 23 games in all competitions so far. But to say that he has come nowhere close to justifying that enormous price tag, albeit he had no say in the fee of course, would be a gross understatement. 7th, Mesut Ozil. There will be some who think that Mesut Ozil should be ranked a little bit higher in this list, but ultimately the legacy he left behind at Arsenal is what should have been. A creative genius whilst at Real Madrid, Ozil made an astonishing 80 assists in just 3 years at the Bernabeu, providing the creative spark for the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema to flourish. For some strange reason though, he was deemed surplus to requirements in 2013, a decision which Ronaldo publicly criticised, and he joined Arsenal on transfer deadline day for £42.4 million, becoming the first £20 million plus player in the Gunners' history. In his first 2 seasons in North London, whilst not matching the standards he had set in Madrid, Ozil did a decent job, registering 7 goals and 13 assists in his debut campaign and 5 goals and 9 assists in his second, both of which saw him win the FA Cup, albeit injuries did see him miss a number of games. In 2015-16 though, it looked like the Ozil of old was coming back, as he set a record of registering an assist in 7 consecutive Premier League games, ending the season with 19 in total and the club's Player of the Season award. However, he never reached anything close to those heights in an Arsenal shirt again, as questions were raised about his attitude and work rate, as well as if the club's style of play could afford to accommodate a luxury player like Ozil and allow him to flourish. Ultimately, it would be signing a new bumper deal in January 2018 that spelled the end of his glory days at the Emirates, as he lost that drive and creative spark that had made him such a glorious player to watch when he was operating at his best, and he became an outcast under Unai Emery and especially Mikel Arteta. He wasn't even included in Arsenal's 2020-21 Premier League squad, meaning that he was being paid £350,000 a week to play in the reserves, and they were finally able to shift him on for nothing in January 2021 when he moved to Fenerbahce. The transfer definitely made sense at the time, but it eventually burnt out into becoming nothing more than a joke and even an embarrassment on Arsenal's behalf, so I think 7th place is about right. 6th, Ondrej Arshavin. The man whose transfer record Ozil broke, Ondrej Arshavin actually put pen to paper on signing for Arsenal after the January 2009 transfer window had slammed shut, but as a result of a snowstorm delaying the transfer process, the Premier League gave Arsenal special dispensation and extended the deadline, meaning that the deal was confirmed 24 hours later. The Russian winger had been a key player at Zenit St. Petersburg for the previous 7 years and had starred for Russia at Euro 2008, so it was a bit surprising that it took until he was aged 27 for him to make a move to one of Europe's big leagues. Arshavin's time at Arsenal is primarily remembered for one thing: his 4-goal haul at Anfield in April 2009 in a remarkable game which ended 4-4, although his performances during his first half season were so good that he came second in the club's Players Player of the Season poll. He would hit double figures for goals in 2009-10 and notch up 12 assists in 2010-11 as a virtual ever-present in the Arsenal team, making good on his obvious talents. From then on though, his impact and game time drastically decreased, as he became a bit part player reduced to making nothing more than cameo appearances from the bench, and after a loan spell back at Zenit failed to reignite his spark, he would only make 7 league appearances in 2012-13 and just 1 after November. He returned to Zenit again, this time on a permanent basis, at the end of the campaign on a free transfer. So whilst he did become a fan's favourite and will forever have that legendary 4-goal display against Liverpool to cherish, his star did fizzle out relatively quickly, hence his spot in 6th. 5th. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I genuinely find it almost impossible to rank Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's £56 million move to Arsenal in January 2018 with the benefit of hindsight, as that transfer is arguably the most mixed and two-parted deal in the history of the club, and perhaps in world football too. The former Gabonese international became a superstar at Borussia Dortmund, where he became one of the deadliest players in world football, hitting 100 goals in all competitions between the summer of 2015 and January 2018, and being the only person not named Robert Lewandowski to win the Bundesliga Golden Boot Award between 2016 and 2022. After he submitted a transfer request in January 2018, Arsenal were the ones to secure his services, but despite being aged 28 at the time, it still seemed like a really shrewd signing at a pretty good value. For the first 2.5 years of his time in North London, he was the Gunners' best player by a country mile and almost single-handedly kept them in the hunt for Champions League football. He hit 70 goals in all competitions, became club captain, jointly won the Premier League Golden Boot in 2018-19 alongside Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah, and was only 1 goal shy of another Golden Boot in 2019-20, the season in which he lifted the FA Cup. Equally prolific up front, all when cutting in from the left flank, Aubameyang's pace, trickery and lethal finishing could have brought back memories of Thierry Henry, especially since Alba wore Henry's famous number 14 shirt. But then came the downfall. He signed a new contract at the club in the summer of 2020 and, perhaps coincidentally, his performances tailed off, the goals dried up, and he didn't seem to suit the way Mikel Arteta wanted to play. A number of disciplinary issues throughout 2021 led to him being dropped, and it became eminently clear that Arsenal should have attempted to cash in on him when they had the chance. Instead, following his 5th disciplinary issue of the year, he was stripped of the captaincy, with Arteta saying that he failed to demonstrate the quote, commitment and passion to turn out for the club, and his contract was mutually terminated in February, leading him to join Barcelona. If he'd left in 2020 or perhaps even in 2021 for a bit of money, he would have cracked the top 3 and left with his reputation still intact, but as is, he's now viewed as a mercenary by Arsenal fans, and his performances whilst at Chelsea look to have vindicated those who said Alba was finished a couple of years ago. 4th. Alexandre Lacazette. I think Alexandre Lacazette's move to the Emirates in 2017 was slightly above mediocre, and he didn't have the same acrimonious departure that Aubameyang did. Hence why he comes in 4th. He had been a star at Lyon for 4 seasons and bagged 37 goals in 45 games in all competitions for the club in 2016-17, and aged 25 at the time, seemingly just about to enter his prime, it made sense for him to move to one of Europe's elite. That club would initially be Atletico Madrid, but owing to FIFA upholding Atleti's 2-window transfer ban, the deal fell through, and Arsenal were the ones to benefit from this, as they signed him for £46.5 million. He scored within 2 minutes of his debut, and Arsenal fans were already dreaming of having a new Thierry Henry in their ranks. Admittedly though, he didn't come anywhere close to matching the heights the legendary Frenchman set in North London, or indeed his own standards at Lyon, but he was still a relatively prolific goalscorer for 4 seasons, hitting 65 goals in all competitions between 2017 and 2021, winning the FA Cup in 2020, and being voted Arsenal's Player of the Season in 2018-19. He combined a decent knack for finding the back of the net with a high work rate, both on and off the ball, and creativity, which saw him register 10 league assists in 2018-19, although his tendency to miss a number of chances was ridiculed by Gunner supporters and rival fans alike. After being reduced to a squad rotation player in 2021-22, the club announced that they would not be renewing his contract at the Emirates, and he returned to Lyon that summer for free. It is quite remarkable that out of Arsenal's record signings since 1992, 6 ended up leaving the club for absolutely nothing, albeit one of them retired. But in spite of falling into that category, Lacazette was still a decent enough signing, all things considered. Whilst that lethal goal scorer that was present at Lyon never really re-emerged in North London, he gave us all and wasn't exactly hated by Arsenal fans for the most part, which I guess is a win of sorts. Third, Sylvain Wiltord. Kickstarting the podium places is Sylvain Wiltord, who joined Arsenal in the summer of 2000 from Bordeaux for £13 million, fresh off the back of scoring a dramatic late equaliser in the Euro 2000 final against Italy, which France went on to win via a golden goal. He wasn't signed purely based on that though. Instead, his tally of 60 goals in 3 seasons was enough to convince Arsene Wenger that he should be added to Arsenal's attacking roster, and his transfer record wouldn't be beaten until André Arshavin's 2009 move. Much like Arshavin, Wiltord's time at Arsenal is defined by one moment, which in his case was scoring the winning goal at Old Trafford in May 2002 to confirm Arsenal's status as league champions and double winners. However, he offered a lot outside of that goal in spite of being predominantly played out of position on the wing, hitting double figures for goals in both 2001-02 and 2002-03. He offered a lot defensively as well as an attack, and he always gave us all whenever he turned out for the club, although by the time the Invincible season rolled around, an ankle injury had sidelined Wiltord for a few months, reducing his status to a bit part player. Nonetheless, despite departing for Rennes in 2004 on a free once his contract expired, the Frenchman was still voted as Arsenal's 33rd greatest player of all time in 2008, which I think did have a lot to do with recency bias and that famous goal against Manchester United, but that doesn't change the fact that he was, in the end, a good signing by Arsenal, if not a world-class one like the two up next. Second, Dennis Bergkamp. The top 2 in this video are light years ahead of the others, which speaks volumes not only of how good they both were for Arsenal, but also of how mixed, mediocre or poor the others were, or have been in the case of Pepé. Taking the silver medal on this occasion is Dennis Bergkamp, the non-flying Dutchman who was seemingly born with ice in his veins, given how elegantly and coolly he played almost every time he stepped onto a football pitch. After enduring a difficult time at Inter Milan, Arsenal saved him from his Italian nightmare when they bought him for £7.5 million in 1995, a fee which tripled the club's previous transfer record. After a decent if unspectacular debut campaign under Bruce Rioch, it was Arsene Wenger's arrival at the club which saw Bergkamp re-transformed into the world superstar that he had been at Ajax, with specific training regimes and dietary requirements suiting the Dutchman down to the ground. What's more, he was moved into his favoured role as a creative second striker, playing just off the main attacker, which was firstly Ian Wright and then a particular Frenchman. In that role, he flourished, with his touch, technique, vision, dribbling ability and creativity just about as close to perfection as you're likely to see. He became the perfect foil to the explosiveness of Pires and Henry, linking up with them expertly on the left-hand side to make him almost impossible to defend against when in full flight. Across 11 years with the Gunners, Bergkamp scored 115 goals and made 95 assists, winning 3 Premier Leagues, 4 FA Cups and the PFA Player of the Year award in 1997-98, the same season in which he made history by becoming the first and only player to take first, second and third places in Match of the Day's Goal of the Month competition in August 1997. So popular was he among Arsenal fans that in the final game of the 2004-05 season, in which he scored 1 and assisted 3 in a 7-0 thrashing of Everton, Arsenal fans chanted "one more season," as he had announced that he would be retiring at the end of that campaign, but he later reversed that decision as a result of that chant and retired the following year instead. What's more, the first game at Arsenal's new ground, the Emirates Stadium, was Bergkamp's testimonial, and it was a sellout. If that doesn't sum up how good Bergkamp was for Arsenal for such a long period of time, and indeed how popular he was, I don't know what will. First, Thierry Henry. Whilst a lot of the positions in this video were pretty difficult to determine, the choice of who would take top spot was an absolute no-brainer, with all due respect of course to Bergkamp. Arsene Wenger caused quite a stir when he brought in Thierry Henry for £11 million in 1999, as he had struggled to adapt at Juventus and subsequently underperformed, and the media assumed that he was going to be nothing more than a desperate but unsuccessful attempt to replace Nicolas Pepé in the Gunners' front line. It looked like they would be proven right, as Henry failed to score in his first 8 games for the club, but Wenger kept faith in him, which may well have been the wisest decision of his entire time managing the club. The Hazzabhajan merchant soon kicked into gear and finished his debut campaign with 26 goals to his name. But that would just be the start. An absolute joy to watch when he was in full flight. His pace and skill on the ball made him a nightmare to defend against. His ability to score any type of goal at any moment was unrivaled in the Premier League at that time. He had phenomenal work rate on and off the ball, and his vision and awareness also helped him set up plenty of other goals for his teammates. Between 2001 and 2006, during which time Henry was probably one of the 3 best players in the world, he won 2 Premier League titles, one of them unbeaten of course, 3 FA Cups, and reached a Champions League final at team level, and on an individual basis, he finished on the Ballon d'Or and FIFA World Player of the Year podiums twice apiece, although he somehow never won either award, won 4 Premier League Golden Boots, 2 PFA Player of the Year awards, 2 European Golden Shoes. You get the idea. In 2002-03, in addition to scoring 24 goals, he notched up a tally of 20 assists, which has never been beaten during the Premier League era and only equalled once by Kevin De Bruyne in 2019-20. And when Arsenal went unbeaten in 2003-04, he scored 30 goals. And after all that, when he moved to Barcelona in 2007, Arsenal still made a profit on him, as they sold him for £16 million, despite Henry being on the verge of turning 30. He was, simply put, a magisterial footballer who many would say is the greatest of the Premier League era, and there's no way he could feature anywhere else but top. And that just about wraps up today's video, looking at how I would rank each of Arsenal's 8 club record signings that they have made since 1992 from worst to best. If you disagree or somehow agree with any of my selections, let me know why down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, of course, please don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, ring the notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a video straight away, and check out all the other episodes that I've made in this series using the playlist link on screen or in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.